Hey everybody, this is Curtis from the FXBG Turks here with another video here for you. This is going to be a deck tech video to kind of show you one of the decks that I played at the Soldier Series this past weekend. It was with a new card in Opus 7, which everyone is pretty hype about, which is Noctis, and I just wanted to show everyone the thought process behind making the deck and the combos that go with it as well. It's going to be very in-depth, so prepared for pretty decently long video, but I'm going to go ahead and try to explain everything that I can. This is also to build off of the previous episodes that we did on the YouTube channel, most notably how to build your deck. I'll include the link below so that you can watch that video again and kind of see the concepts behind this and how everything is put into motion. But we'll go ahead and get right into it. So this is the deck that I ended up taking to Soldier Series. It's definitely not perfect. There's definitely a lot of changes that I can make, and there's a couple cards that I can think off the bat as to which ones to replace, which ones to take out, things like that. But what had happened was when Noctis was first spoiled, I basically wanted to abuse him as much as I could and make him basically get over his shortcomings as a card. I ended up throwing this list maybe about 2 days before the actual event, since the card list wasn't spoiled and not put onto FF decks about maybe a day before the tournament or so. So this was relatively new, didn't really have any time to play test it, and kind of learned as I went while I was playing the event. But basically it's revolving around this one card here. So Noctis, he is the promo when you buy a box of Opus 7, and he's also a legend in the set. He's very, very good. So basically what he does off the bat is if you take damage, you end up fighting any opponent's forward on their board as like a 2 CP Hexagon chair, basically. And he also has an Expert's effect. If you receive damage, you can choose one forward, and if you have received 6 points of damage, you get to break it. So automatically this card is pretty good. He's good against a lot of aggro decks. You're able to kill little weak things and just basically kill them out or trade with something that's equal to 7,000. And his last effect is what also makes him even a better card. He has a way to protect himself, and basically you pay 2 Earth and 2 CP of any other color. And during that turn, any damage dealt to Noctis the next time becomes 0 instead. So you're able to kind of get around burn effects or get around his own effect where he trades with someone. You can just basically pay 4 CP and basically keep him alive. So if you look at this card here, you would think that this card is really, really good, but there are a couple weaknesses, and this is where the addition of water comes in to kind of make up for that weakness, in my opinion. One of the main weaknesses is that if you don't take damage, he's not doing anything. So if you just have it on the board and they're not swinging, you're not really getting much value out of it other than just stalling and prolonging the game. And then also another weakness is that he can only trade once. Or block once, basically. And what I mean by that is every time you get hit and you deal his damage to another forward, they're dealing damage to each other. So after the second hit, if you choose to use it again, most likely Noctis will die unless you pay 4 CP, which can definitely drain your hand and basically leave you at a disadvantage in certain circumstances. And that's the biggest problem that I saw with the card immediately when I saw that he was spoiled. It's definitely really expensive to try to keep him alive. So that's where it comes into adding the water, basically. And we'll go into the key cards, which makes this card much better and gets over the weaknesses that he has. So going off of the main point of the first video that we did on YouTube, which was how to build your deck. These cards right here are the cards that synergize well with Noctis, basically. So the main one going to be Fusoya. This gets around the main weakness of Noctis. If you're not dealing a damage to yourself, you can't do anything. So what's the best way to do it? You deal your damage to yourself and you kill something for 7,000 as well. So that was the main thing that, obviously anyone could put 2 + 2 together. But the next thing was basically Minwu. Minwu being that if a forward takes damage that's not equal to lethal, they just won't take the damage at all. So that in and by itself is going to be really good, especially against Turbo. So if they keep on swinging with like Thaumaturges, you can take the point, deal 7,000 to their guy. You don't take 5, and then if they keep on swinging, you're just going to keep on popping their stuff. And then also you got Cecil in the whole package as well to basically help deal yourself damage as well. And he's also a big guy, 9,000, and he's able to kill something with his own effect too. So he's automatically really good, and he's an expert as well, so he's able to, help deal additional removal to the forwards that you're playing against. And then also another big card was Femoral Summoner. Basically what that is, it's able to allow your Fusoyas to be much more damaging, and it helps you get around sticky situations of where you're waiting for Noctis, basically. But the main win condition in itself would just be Noctis and Fusoya. And when I go into the combos of the deck, basically you'll see how just having these two cards, you're able to kill multiple forwards off of just one Fusoya proc, which is actually really, really good. But throughout the weekend, when I was playing the event, just having Noctis and having Fusoya on board, it just gives you a lot of versatility. It makes a lot of awkward situations for the opponent because they can never play anything that's 7,000 or less because they're just going to die instantly. So they have to deal with Noctis. But at the same time, if you have other backups, you can always just use this effect to keep them alive, and they'll just not play forwards, and you just keep on swinging for game, basically. All right, so the other main weakness of Noctis is that he's on curve, and that's only a weakness just because if you are fighting other things on curve, if you choose to use his ability to do the fight damage, you're going to end up trading Noctis with that forward, or you're going to end up paying 4 CP to just basically keep him alive. So what's the best way to do it? Make sure that your forwards are over curve, and at that point you're going to be playing cards like Crow, Ingus, and then also Wall to kind of boost up his attack during the combat phase. So there's a lot of times where you can just have Noctis on board, have Wall on board, and a Fusoya. Use Wall to boost up Noctis to about 9k, swing, and at that point they probably don't want to trade because they're just going to lose the forward. They'll take the point of damage, and then you can use Fusoya, deal something on their board that's 7k damage, and kill it. And then the X-Burst goes off, and then at that point you take damage, so Noctis is now going to deal 9k to something when he fights, and you're able to basically kill whatever they didn't block with. So it gives you a lot of aggressive plays, and it's really oppressing, and it's definitely unfair sometimes. And then you have Ingus there as well to kind of boost up the 1,000 power for being an Earth. And then also his ability comes into handy as well to give that extra 2k just in case if you need that extra push, or if they try to get fancy and then they buff their guy to make either him and Noctis trade or over Noctis, and at that point you just push him over the edge with the 2,000. And then basically Mach is the is the same idea behind it. It gives you that extra buff, the surprise buff by 3k, so that way if they try to get fancy and try to make it the bad trade for you, you just basically push it over the top. So if you have like the dream setup and you have everything, which is not hard, I've done it plenty of times during the weekend, you can have Noctis at about 14,000 attack, and that should be able to clear anything. All right, so within the deck, there are other combos as well, not just Noctis. So that's where the supporting strategies come in. So if you watch the first episode of How to Build Your Deck, I talk about how your deck needs to have multiple branches within it, so that way you can actually do other things if your main strategy is just isn't there, or if it's not good enough. So basically these cards right here are basically tricks around Fusoya itself, so without Noctis, that you can do to kind of get around problem forwards or sticky situations. You can use a Femoral Summoner to kind of set up better Fusoya plays, especially with their experts like the Water Summons, Fanfrit, or Cachulin. And then also Cecil himself with Fusoya also can help you kill forwards, and Fusoya can deal yourself damage, so that way you can actually kill something that's dulled if you don't have enough points at that time. So it just gives you a lot of versatility without just having Noctis on board. All right, and then the other strategy is your draw strategy, and since you're playing water and you're playing Minwu in the deck, why not play Layla and Viking? So that way you can draw cards, get more forwards on board, and basically just threaten them with really oppressive boards. You can have like Noctis and Fusoya, like I said, and at that point they really don't want to play anything that's 7k or less. But if you drop a Layla and a Viking on top of that, now they have to play something, or else they're going to take 3 damage immediately, and that's not going to feel good. So they're going to have to play something, and at that point that's when you start doing your Fusoya tricks and basically you just clear the board, and then you start swinging. And if they die, you don't care, you just draw a card anyways. But there's a lot of different things that you can do with Layla Viking. One of the major things is Delita. So when I made the Data Lolita deck back in the other Soldier series, which I won that one, I believe, the first one. The strategy behind that was just Earth Wind, and then adding water for the extra draw. And then since you're playing Earth in Earth Wind anyways, you play Delete It to kind of get rid of those water cards and clear the board and draw cards at the same time. And that's kind of the same theory here, except you're playing water and Earth as a primary element, so it just makes more sense. And it already synergizes well into the deck, basically. And with Opus 7, there was a new Titus, not the Legend, but the common one. The common one's actually really, really good, and it's 4K. 4 CP 9K, and that's already over curve. Most 4 drops are about 8K, but this one's at 9K. The fact that the bounce back a character is why he's above curve, because naturally he would be disadvantaged, because he'll put something back in your hand that you might not want there. But if you're playing Layla and Viking, you don't care about them. They give you a free card anyways. So you can play Layla Viking, play Titus, bounce back to Layla. If you have another Viking in your break zone, you could just play it right then and there and draw another card, and that's not losing you any real CP. Or if you don't have it set up yet, you can just play Titus and bounce back Viking, draw a card, and Titus basically becomes a 2 CP 9K, which is pretty crazy. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the combos in the deck. And basically how we're going to notate this is the red X's are going to be guaranteed kills, assuming that you're going to be able to kill something at 7K, and then the white ones will represent a kill off an X burst, potential X burst, and then the yellow X will be Noctis's first effect. If you take 6 points of damage, you can break it. So all the X's here will basically show you if you have like a dream setup, or if you're really lucky on an X burst, which isn't actually hard to set up, especially with like Femoral Summoner, you can kill multiple things off of one Fusoya proc, which is very, very good. And then also Minwu's here just to let you know that, you have Minwu on board to make sure you don't constantly take damage, so that way you can, fight multiple times. And that's just basically making up for the weakness of Noctis. So let's have Noctis and Fusoya and Minwu. Not a very hard setup at all. So if you activate Fusoya, you kill something for 7K. At that point, when you take the damage, possibly X burst, if that is an X burst and it kills something, that's 2 kills. And then Noctis will fight, and that's 3. And then if you're at 6 points of damage when you activate that, 5 points of damage to 6 points of damage. At that point, Noctis will activate again, and you get a kill of forward. So if all things line up perfectly, you can kill 4 things off of 1 Fusoya. But if things don't go perfectly and you're just at, start of the game, you're going to kill 2 things guaranteed most of the time, as long as you do it properly. Alright, so now this is with all the buffs and stuff like that. So usually Noctis will be at 9K almost all the time. And at that point, you can basically trade with anything in the game, unless it's like really big, beefy guys like an Earth or something like that. But if you have that set up there with the buffs, you could basically do the same thing as the previous setup. It's just you're able to fight things that are a little bit higher your normal grade. Same thing, Fusoya, 7K, potential X burst, Noctis fights, kills something. And then if you become at 6 points of damage, you get to kill something. So still 4 things off of 1 Fusoya proc. And for the supporting strategy, this is to kind of show how many things you can kill with just a Femoral Summoner and Fusoya, and you don't even need Noctis. So this is kind of your stall plays or your backup plays that basically get rid of big beefy guys, or something that's just awkward to deal with if you don't have the setup just yet. So basically, just have Fusoya on board, drop a Femoral Summoner. At that point, what she's going to do is she's going to take any water summon that costs 4 or less, and you put it on top of your deck. So that way you're setting up your X burst off of Fusoya. So the first one we'll do is Cachulan. So if that happens, you can basically kill 1 thing guaranteed, depending on how many things they have dulled, especially if it's a really expensive forward or a really high-powered forward that you normally can't deal with Noctis if he's not at 9K yet. So you just basically ping for 7, Cachulan goes off, minuses their power, and then they end up dying anyways. You draw a card out of it, so you actually get a card back. If somehow they have like something really weak that Cachulan can just kill by itself, at that point you can possibly kill 2 things. And that's basically what the blue X is for, just to let you know that if Cachulan can actually kill something, you're basically getting 2 kills off of that 1 Femoral Summoner. For the next one, it's going to be Fanfrit. That one's going to be guaranteed 2 kills anyways, because you do Fusoya, kill something for 7K, and then the Fanfrit procs, and then both players have to get rid of a forward. You don't really care about Femoral Summoner, so most of the time you're just going to pitcher. Or if you have Viking on board, you could draw a card out of it, so that's really good too. Alright, now the next combo would be with Noctis, Fusoya on board, and then you drop in the Femoral Summoner with it, and that's not expensive at all, and I did this a lot. So with Cthulhu, the theory behind it, helps Noctis trade with something that's over his power, and then draws you a card. But this basically just shows how many things you can possibly kill. You can possibly kill up to 4. So you do a Femoral Summoner, stack Cthulhu on top. The 7k kills something, you take a point of damage, neg something else, you draw a card, Noctis kills that weakened forward, and then, that's basically how it goes. If Cthulhu is able to kill something by itself and Noctis is able to kill something that's not really buffed and that's beneath his power, or if you have enough CP to keep him alive, at that point you can possibly kill up to 4 forwards off of that one Femoral Summoner and that one Fusoya proc. Alright, and then the next one will be with Fanford instead. At that point, play a Femoral Summoner while you have Noctis and Fusoya on board. Activate Fusoya. Fusoya kills something for 7. You take a point of damage. The Fanford goes off. That kills something. And then Noctis fights something. And then that kills it. And then if you become at 6 points of damage, and then Noctis activates and kills something. So that's that's guaranteed 3 most of the time. And then with a possible 4th if you end up becoming at that 6 points of damage. Alright, and the other main card of the deck, which would be Cecil, he can actually kill possibly 3 things just by himself, and everyone knows this combo. It's not very hard. You just play Cecil, and then you use his ability Dark to basically deal yourself a point of damage, and if you have enough points of damage that matches the CP cost of whatever forward they have, you can just kill it regardless if it's dulled. So basically what you do is just play Cecil. Let's say you're at 3 points of damage and they have a dull 3-drop and a active 4-drop. You target the 3-drop, you're at 3 points, you kill it, you activate Dark, you take a point of damage, and then you kill that 4, and now you're at 4 points of damage, so it matches. And then if you get an additional X-Burst, like a Fanford or something like that, or like a Raban, you can end up killing something else too with the potential of 3 things that you kill off of that one Dark. So that's pretty good by itself too. And then also with Fusoya, Cecil can kill up to 3 things potentially. So you Fusoya, kill something for 7, use the auto ability, the ETB of Cecil, to kill whatever else you're trying to kill that's dulled. And then if it's another X-Burst, you can use that to kill something too, so potential 3 targets. And then if you have Cecil and you use his Dark ability on top of the Fusoya, at that point you can kill a potential of 5 forwards just with the ETB, the Dark, and then that activation of Fusoya. So at that point, you deal something 7, it dies. You possibly have that X-Burst, which is that 1 white X. You play the Dark to kill the forward, and then at that point, if there's another X-Burst, you get to kill that. And there's just a lot of value that basically can, clear a board just by that itself if everything aligns perfectly. But if not, you're going to kill about 3 things guaranteed most of the time. Alright, so this combo right here actually does not need Fusoya at all, so you can just have like any backups and then have Noctis on board and draw into like double Cecil or something like that. Or if you're holding on to it and you draw into that second copy, now you can possibly kill up to 5 things, 3 guaranteed. So you play the Cecil, kill something that's dulled, activate Dark, you kill a target off of that with the Dark, you take a point of damage. At that point, if that X-Burst is able to kill something, then that would kill something too. Then Noctis fights them, kills it, and if you're at 6 points of damage now, then Noctis activates again and kills a forward. So potentially you can kill up to 5 targets. If the X-Burst isn't so lucky, you can kill 3, but if you're at 6 points, you're going to kill 4 guaranteed off of just 2 cards. Alright, so this one can potentially kill up to 8 forwards if you're at 4 points of damage. If you don't have 4 points of damage, you can still kill 5 things guaranteed as long as you have the correct buffs and Minwu up. You're able to kind of clear a board just by just having that. So basically how that goes is you already have Noctis aboard and you already have Fusoya and you draw into like double Cecil, or you have 2 Cecils in hand, which really isn't hard. It might sound like a lot because there's a lot of cards on the screen, but it's really common and it's really cheap for the combo, and if you have other backups, you're already going to be set up. So basically, you play the Cecil, target the doll forward, kill that, and at that point you activate Dark, and then you can chain Fusoya on top of it too. It doesn't really matter. Fusoya goes off, kills something for 7. That's going to be 2. The Dark kills something. That's going to be 3. And at that point, when you take the point of damage from the Fusoya, Noctis is going to fight. And then when you take a point of damage from Cecil, Noctis is going to fight again. So that's 5 guaranteed as long as you have the proper buffs and you have Menu on board to keep them alive for all the trading. And if the 2 points of damage that you took from Fusoya and Cecil is something that can actually do something and clear another forward, that's an additional 2. And if you were at 4 points of damage, and then you activate the Fusoya, that's going to be 5 points of damage. And then Cecil's Dark puts you at 6. That's going to be another forward on top. So overall, if you're really lucky, you're going to kill 8 forwards, well, potentially up to 8 forwards. If you are not lucky, you're going to kill at least 5 guaranteed with the proper conditions. And then if you are at 4 points of damage, you will kill about 6 forwards because of Noctis's additional ability. So that by itself is really, really good. All right, so with Delita, he's able to kind of clear forwards off the board too and give you cards while you do it. So the most common combo for that would just be play Lila into Viking, and then if you have enough CP, you can play Delita at the same time. Use Layla, kill a forward. That's going to be 4 CP. You can also target Viking for any 3 CP and then draw a card out of it. The cool thing about this is when you choose a forward, you don't have to tell them what forward that you're going to pick at that time until they allow you to resolve it. So basically what that means is if you have like another 3 CP Viking on board and you're trying to kill a 3-drop, if they kill 1 Viking, you can still pick the other, and then that way you can get around that too. So they kind of have to play a guessing game of like which forwards you want to pick, especially if you have like 2 different 3 CP forwards or 2 different 4 CP forwards. They have to like choose which one they want to kill, and then you can just pick the other one and still clear that target, which is really, really good. And then also with Delita, he's able to be like a stone wall that you can kind of sit behind if you don't have Noctis and you're just kind of waiting into getting into a proper setup, or if you're just trying to, set up your board accordingly. Anytime that you target him, he's going to gain 1,000. So it just enables him to kind of block a lot of forwards or trade with a lot of forwards or just straight up kill them. So if you have Enacro on the board, obviously he's going to be at 8k, and anytime he's targeted, he's going to gain another 1,000. If you have Ingus on board too, he's going to be at 9k. If you use Ingus's ability to boost Delita by 2,000, he's going to gain an additional 1,000 out of that too because you're targeting him. So he's actually going to get 3,000 on top instead. With Wall, if you choose to give Delita 2,000, he's going to get 3,000, and if you give him Brave or something like that, he'll get another 1,000. So he'll get 4,000 in total, which is very, very good. Also, if you target Delita with Heka, he's going to gain 1,000 too, and it's going to enable him to trade something that's over what he is currently at. So if you are looking at another 8k and he's currently at 8k with Enacro, you could play Heka Conchair, target your own Delita, is going to buff him to 9, and then you'll be able to kill it. And if you have Menu on board, which you should, you're not going to take any damage at all, and you're able to do whatever you want for that turn. And the same thing with Mach 2. If you give it 3,000, he's going to get an additional 1. He'll be at 4,000 increased. So it just basically shows you how Delita works within this deck and how all these cards put together kind of synergize with different cards here and not just with only the main win strategy. So if you're building your own deck out there, you can kind of take this idea and run with it. You want to have a lot of cards that can synergize with each other and basically build on each other without having to rely on the main strategy. And then also, Noctis is a prince, and it works with Cloudy too, so you can basically be pretty aggressive and swing with Delita. He's going to be really big, and they don't want to target him with anything, so they're probably going to take the point of damage. And if they try to attack you back, you just activate Cloudy, and then reactivate him, and he's going to gain 1,000 from that too. Also, you can just choose him anyways, even if he's not dulled, and you'll still gain 1,000. So it enables you to basically play aggressive and defensively at the same time. Noctis is the same thing. You can attack with him. They probably don't want to trade with him. They take a point of damage. If they try to attack you again, you just reactivate them. Or you can play a mind game with them and just say like, okay, maybe I'll just take the point of damage and just fight you and then buff it. So it makes them feel uncomfortable of like what they should do. And a lot of times they just kind of panic and not do anything because they just don't have any answers. So it enables you to kind of play aggressive and defensive at the same time. All right, and with the last card that we'll talk about here, the interactions would be the 4 CP Titus. So if you look at the actual deck list, which I'll pull up in a second, the cards within Opus 7 that fit into this deck is only 2 things at this time. It's the 4 CP Titus and Noctis himself. Those are the only Opus 7 cards that I put into the deck because that's all it needed. With 4 CP Titus, you're able to bounce back a lot of things and get extra versatility. One of the main things you're going to be bouncing back is Leyland Viking, so you can draw more cards or put more forwards on the board. You can also bounce back Delita to put it back in your hand to start getting rid of those Leyland Vikings, so you can actually kill more things off of that and draw more cards. You can bounce back Raban if you end up playing it, and then just using its effect again to kill something else, either with the 9K of Titus or with Wall, or basically any forward in this deck to kill something off the board too. And then you can bounce back Shantoto too. If you're forced to use it early, you can definitely threaten to use it again. And if you have like Layla Viking on the board, you really don't care. You'll just get a card out of it anyways. And then you can also bounce back Cecil if you already played him, or if you were forced to play him to basically stonewall someone out the game. You can just put it back in your hand and set up those dark plays that we talked about earlier with the combos and just clear board that way. Yeah, so this is the deck list again, just to kind of refresh and kind of talk about all the cards here. We got the Femoral Summoners, we got the Delitas, we got the Ingus, we got the Noctis, the Layla Vikings, we have the Titus, we have Wall and Cecil. So all those forwards together, about 23 of them. All of them work with each other and they all have different interactions, and you can kind of map out like what they do. And all the combos that we talked about earlier all come off of just one Noctis and one Fusoya proc, which is actually really amazing if you think about it. The summons there are basically designed to kind of help the forward lineup survive or get around things that they normally wouldn't be able to get over. So you have the 2-drop Hekaton chairs that basically clear problems off the board, and with Wall you're able to buff your own guys, so that way you can do it before combat, and then if you have Minwa on the board, you're not going to take any damage, you can just start swinging. Fanfrit's going to be able to link well with the Vikings and basically draw cards and get rid of forwards at the same time. And then you have the Hekaton chair to basically get rid of anthems or get rid of any problem backups that would hamper your strategy. So if they have like their own buff and at that point makes their stuff the same power as Noctis or something like that, at that point you just clear it, and then you're able to basically do the same thing that you're trying to do before. And then Cthulhu helps you get over things that are actually like way above Noctis's power threshold, and at that point you can just bring them down and kill them and draw a card out of it. With the backups, pretty standard backups. You have Kate Sit to kind of keep Noctis alive for those summons that don't deal damage, so like 4 CP Odins or things like that. You have Claudia to reactivate the Delita and the Noctis so that we can play defensively. You have Monk to boost the forwards power, so that way you can either trade up or surprise them with a buff on Noctis when you're fighting, so you can end up killing something. You have Yuna there to kind of help the CP cost of all the water summons, so that way you're not pitching more cards than necessary. 2 CP Fanfrits are actually like really, really good. And then you have Enacro to boost the power of the backups, and then you have Fusoya, which is part of the main engine. And then you have the Shantotas there to kind of help clear the board, and then Robin as one of your experts to kind of help clear things off the board too, since your forwards are going to be pretty beefy. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. Kind of want to make this deck profile to kind of show you the thought process behind making the deck. Also kind of let you know what the combos are if you're interested in playing the deck. By all means, pick it up and start playing. I got a lot of ideas for Opus 7, and this is just one of them. So I'll be kind of experimenting and kind of playing around, and if I choose to end up playing this deck in the future, there's definitely going to be edits I'm going to make to it. But thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to just hit us up on Facebook or just comment on the YouTube channel as well. Also, we have SoundCloud where we have our weekly podcast episodes. So if you haven't been catching up, by all means, go to SoundCloud and kind of catch up on the episodes. We got a lot of good episodes with a lot of different guests and different content creators. So go ahead and check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.